You are going to call the police on me for doing my job, okay? Carry on.
Edit. Thanks for the awards guys, they're very much appreciated, thumbs up. It's me again, Mr. Waterboy. I work for a water company carrying out repairs on burst water mains on an on-call basis of 1 week every 2 months. This particular job happened about 8 years ago. We get a call out that a major pipe feeding a large housing estate had burst and needed repairs ASAP.
We head to the yard about 11 p.m. at night to collect our gear and get the plans and drawings of other utilities in the area of the work. We arrive on site, set up the traffic management as per regulations. Speak with the inspector that called us out for an exact location of repair. Too much water to mark in the usual way. We set up our barriers and work lights around the work area. We get out our still saw and cut a couple of meters of tar out, ready to start breaking the tar out of the road. Just as I started the jackhammer going, Mr. Sleepyhead comes stomping down the street in his slippers and dressing gown, looking rather perplexed. Took my ear protection off to see what he wanted. I could tell it wasn't to offer us a coffee. He then proceeded to tell me, you can shut that fucking thing off and fuck off until it's daytime. I explained that it was emergency work and that we couldn't have 600 properties get up and have no water in the morning, so it has to be completed now. And our work was fully understood by the council and the police. We then get the usual bollocks of, do you know who I am? I refrained from telling him that I knew exactly who he is. He is an irritating arsewipe who was stopping us from working. He then starts turning the air supply off so I can't use the jackhammer, which was ever so slightly annoying. He then started that he knew the police chief inspector and would have me arrested if I carried on. I said that I have to carry on as per my emergency work order, and if he carried on obstructing us, I'd have to call the police to get the job finished. Needless to say, he did it again and said, call who you like, I'll have you arrested and sacked by morning. By now I was tired, cold and wet, and starting to get slightly irritated by his actions. So I go back to the van and ring the police to explain that we're out carrying out emergency work and we are being prevented from completing it by one of the local residents, and explain what he's doing to stop us working. He stomps off in his now soggy slippers and I poured a coffee. About 40 minutes later, headlights appear in the distance, so I thought, great, just what we need. So we can get done and recharged by 6 a.m. Hopefully. Mr. Sergeant and Mr. Constable arrive and come for a chat to find out what TF is going on. In his words, why TF are we doing it after midnight in the first place? So I proceeded to explain that the water main had burst and we needed to get the supply restored by 6 a.m. to save between 1,500 to 2,000. Only a slight exaggeration. People having no water in the morning when they get up. He then realized the job needed to be done and toddles off for a word with Mr. Sleepyhead. Before long we can hear the shouting from down the street. It then goes quiet and he comes back down to us to explain that the guy was a sandwich short of a picnic, a British euphemism for a nut job, and that they are going to have to hang around in case Mr. Sleepyhead started playing stupid games. So we fire up the compressor and start jackhammering again with my back towards the police car to save anything pinging off in that direction. A few minutes later, the machine driver toots his horn to get my attention. Mr. Sleepyhead had only come down the road carrying a piece of timber, lumber for you American folks, and was in the process of getting arrested for disturbing the peace. I honestly laughed so hard I nearly pissed myself. Who TF is that stupid when the police are around? Just in case anyone is interested, we were back on by 5:30 a.m. and had a coffee off Mr. Sleepyhead's neighbor, who was highly amused because he'd seen the whole incident out of his window. His only disappointment was his surveillance cameras didn't pick up the video and he only had the audio to share with his mates. Apologies for long-winded explanation, hopefully you can follow along. MC is that he told me to call the police and he'd have me arrested but gets himself locked up. Instead, any fuck-ups belong to me, and remember this is Reddit and not a doctoral thesis in English. So STFU about grammar and spelling.
Thanks for taking the time to read, hopefully you enjoyed it.
Love it when people threaten to call the police when they clearly don't have a leg to stand on. A right bell end through and through. Good story. While I do empathize with someone whose sleep is being interrupted, I also understand that the water mains, sewers, gas lines, and electric lines all need to be kept in good repair, and sometimes emergency work is needed. I also know that the workers would rather be in bed during the night themselves, rather than cutting up the street in the dark. Thanks, utility workers. I salute you. Seriously. Most of us take things like running water for granted. It's not until you have to do without for a few weeks because everything is shut down by a giant hurricane that you start to appreciate the little things. I remember utility workers laboring round the clock for weeks.
Wow, great story. And you all still saved the day. Edit. I enjoyed learning the British euphemisms.
As an American water guy doing water samples right now to see if we have a burst main. This isn't what I wanted to read this morning, haha. Decades ago I was a plumber for a small company that paid by the job. I basically got 15 to 20% of the earnings from every job I did. I got called in the middle of the night for main line, sewer backup for a large apartment building in a not very nice neighborhood. In fact, I was the third plumber they called because the first two declined the job. What the hell? I need the money, so I pack up my tools, jump in my truck and drive over. I get there and people are hanging out of windows shouting things at me like, "Get the fuck out of here," etc. I got about 2/3 of the way up the main walkway to where the building manager was waiting for me, and a beer bottle smashes into the sidewalk in front of me. I turn and head back to my truck, and the building manager starts yelling at the residents, "Knock it off. He's here to fix your drains. He's your plumber." Quote. I say over my shoulder, "Not anymore, I'm not," and left. Along the same thing of, "You'll call the police? I'll do it for you." I worked as news cameraman for 14 years and I can't count the number of times I would be on the sidewalk, public property, or even across the street, shooting video of a business for some reason. Maybe just for B-roll for a story on commerce. Or maybe they did something wrong, and the manager or owner would come outside to ask what I was doing. I didn't mind as long as they were nice, but every so often I would get one that would tell me I couldn't shoot video of their store without their permission. This was false as long as I was on the sidewalk or the street, aka public property. I would inform them of that. Some let it be at that point. Others wanted to escalate it. They would threaten to call the cops, to which I would reply, "Go ahead," or, "I'll do it for you." Some would dial 911, which is only supposed to be used in emergencies. This didn't qualify and I could hear the dispatchers very curtly inform them of this, which would lead them letting it go and going back inside. Usually though I was already done and packed up by the time they would call in. A couple times they would exaggerate and an officer would show up, only to inform the store owner that I was well within my rights. It was always satisfying to see the look on their faces when they were informed they had no power over what I was doing. I do similar work. People always try this shit. It's always the same though. Call who you want. The pipes are on council land and the company I work for has a legal obligation to keep the pipework maintained for safety reasons and to ensure people are not going without required utilities. Other idioms to match the sandwich short of a picnic. 2 bricks short of a full load. Not the brightest light in the harbor. A few screws short of a hardware store. Not the sharpest knife in the rack kitchen. A few cards short of a full deck. A few fries short of a happy meal. As sharp as a marble. The gates are down. The bells are clanging and the lights are flashing. But the train isn't coming. Fell out of the stupid tree and hit every branch on the way down. Couldn't pour water out of a boot with instructions on the heel. If they fell into a barrel of bosoms, they'd come out sucking their thumb. Depriving some village of its idiot. Like a 6-pack of beer but lacks the plastic thingy to hold it together. Donated their brain to science before they were done with it, because it was unused. Change given if you give a penny for their thoughts. Mind like a steel trap. Rusty and illegal in most states. The result of too much chlorine in the gene pool. Batteries not included. All fart. No shit. I love that a neighbor gave you coffee and was laughing at his idiot neighbor getting arrested. Great job. I love it when karma bites a guy like that in the $1. Thank you for working through the night to ensure residents have water. That guy needed a night in the jail to readjust his attitude. NTA. It's me again, Mr. Waterboy. Did we just get back-to-back stories? Question mark. 2 thumbs up, Mr. Waterboy. These kinds of stories are extra entertaining for me, an American, when they take place in another country like this. I work in a control room for a UK water company as the duty engineer and wind up speaking with these customers on the phone out of hours. They're usually braver on the phone with the threats, but once reminded that the call is recorded and we're calling the police, they soon go quiet. Nothing worse than customers. As an Englishman, I love how you can immediately tell when something happened in the UK versus the US versus anywhere else. What a penis. Did you demand compensation from his royal grumpiness for new pants? I have wet mind seeing exhibit or arrested. Brilliant. And yes, seeing actual British terms used warms my heart a bit. Call the cops? Okay, bet. Gotta wonder what he was planning to do with that plank. Was he going to try and jam something? Use it to break your equipment? Or attack you? While I logically understand the need for emergency work to take place, I'd be equally as upset as Mr. Sleepyhead. Once an explanation is received, he should have just shut up. However, that doesn't make the disturbance any less tolerable. While you have a job to do, and I definitely agree it needs to get done, you must know that doing so just prior to midnight is going to cause some pissed off people. I know Americans come across as entitled little bitches a lot, but clearly some Brits are just as bad. I've enjoyed these play stupid games, win stupid prizes. And our contestant chose to play! Exclamation mark.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.